Hello and welcome to my channel, I Win to Lose Gaming. With a new set of statues to worship, we now have access to a brand new element for our traveler to wield. In this video, we'll be taking a look at what a Constellation Zero Lumine with double crown talents can do. So I got a couple of questions about the Hydra Traveler and whether or not you should invest into them. As such, for this Constellation Zero showcase, I'll be doing things a tiny bit differently. We'll go through, of course, a free-to-play friendly build as usual, and actually a couple free-to-play friendly builds, and I'll give a quick breakdown of her kit as usual. However, I'll also push her to her limits with some 5-star weapons to see if spending a lot of money can possibly save her. But really quick, I've got the perfect sponsor for all you gamers today. Tower of God New World. Tower of God New World is a 3D free-to-play mobile game based on the hugely successful Webtoon series. For fans of the Webtoon series, Tower of God New World expands on the original story. And for newcomers, the game is the perfect way to dive into it with wonderfully animated cutscenes. Collect a quirky and colorful cast of characters with epic ultimate animations as you indulge in strategic auto chess combat, where elements and roles are diverse and engaging. With around 70 characters collect and a guaranteed SSR every 100 pulls, you'll get an awesome, epic cast of characters in no time at all. Team building consists of teams of 5, where everything matters like character placement, elements, synergies, and more. Heck, even the lower rarity characters are extremely useful, making this game wonderfully free-to-play friendly. And that's not all, the summer festival just hit and with it comes new characters, new summer costumes, and tons of free rewards. So what are you waiting for? Smash the link down below to play Tower of God New World. Huge thanks to Tower of God New World for sponsoring today's video. Starting off, we'll be using our Hydra Traveler with the Festering Desire. For her artifact, she's using the 2-piece Gladiators and 2-piece Nymph's Dream. She is at Constellation Zero in this video, and her talents are at a glorious 6, 10, and 10.
What?
That's right, nothing short of utilizing our precious crowns on our precious Paimon dispenser. Can the Hydro Traveler live up to her Dendro counterpart? Are her talents a work of art? Or will she fizzle out like a moist fart? Without further ado, let's go ahead and start. Since her Traveler is now much wetter than before, her basic attacks appropriately hit like a wet noodle. And unlike her Anemo and Geo counterparts, which apply their element on the last strike, the Hydro Traveler has no such luxury and will forever languish with unremarkably soggy basic attacks. That brings us to her elemental skill, Aqua Crest Saber. So if you were hoping to LARP as Frieza spamming death beams from Dragon Ball Z, well, you're out of luck, because unlike those death beams which were appropriately named, these ones are appropriately named dewdrops, and they hit about as hard as a dewdrop does as well. In terms of its properties, it has 22 dewdrops and 1 finishing blow. In total, this actually does a respectable 1697.7% of attack scaling multiplier, and if Traveler's HP is above 50% during the whole thing, it does a modest 25.3% HP scaling multiplier. Despite these multipliers actually being quite large, it taking around 6.7 seconds when you use the full hold version to accomplish this is what makes it not as potent and a pretty bad option. It also generates 3 to 4 particles, and when the Torrent Surge portion comes out, the Spirit Breath Thorn occurs, which counts as Pneuma aligned damage, and it applies Hydro 4 times in total if you hold it for the entire duration. Fortunately, it does have a reasonable amount of interrupt resistance while you're holding it, but unfortunately the Traveler is completely stationary while holding it, and the range is okay but not stellar. Honestly, it's a cool concept, but I think it's not that great of an execution. Up next is her Elemental Burst, Rising Waters. Against a very large and stationary target like the Cryo Registine, it hits 8 times for a total of 1467.2% attack scaling multiplier. It has a pretty steep 80 energy cost and applies Hydro 3 times if you're able to hit the enemy 8 times with it. And against smaller targets, I think it usually hits around 3 times. Let's now soak up Traveler's entire kit. Well, with a comical kit comes a comical amount of damage. Admittingly, it's a non-negligible amount of damage, but given the fact that this Traveler variant provides almost no support and only really has her damage going for her, this is a truly unfortunate performance. Now, we all know about Pneuma and Osea aligned damage by now. Traveler deals an instance of Pneuma type damage with her elemental skill. At the moment though, I'm not aware of any meaningful fights where Pneuma damage is helpful. It does seem to do something against the top variation of the Dancing Robot World Boss, but I'm not even sure what it does against it, but I did get an achievement for it. Up next are some team options for the Traveler. Going with the original Hydro damage focused build, I decided to try pushing a somewhat free-to-play version of this build to its absolute limit. With Bennett, Kazuha, and Mona all with corresponding 3 to 4 star weapons to buff Hydro Traveler's damage, well, Hydro Traveler still wasn't able to honestly even come close to one-cycling the robot chicken. For a character whose kit only really offers damage, this is nothing short of a tragedy. And let's not even talk about the horrific energy management for this team. So I decided, okay, let's next see how much damage she can do with some whale gear. With a Refinement 5 Primordial Jade Cutter, a Keel of Livonia on Bennett, and a Refinement 5 Freedom Sword on Kazuha, Hydro Traveler was able to one-cycle the robot chicken, but barely. So rest assured, if you've got a few $1,000s, Hydro Traveler can indeed do a reasonable amount of damage. I continue to rack my brain for some useful applications for Hydro Traveler's kit, and there is actually one thing that Hydro Traveler is uniquely good at. In a Nilo team, one issue with the team archetype is that it's hard to hit enemies on the fringes. Every other Hydro character has circular AoE, or are basically single target against the nearest enemy. However, Hydro Traveler is able to aim her shots, and therefore actually hit enemies that auto-targeting would otherwise make impossible to hit. This synergizes perfectly with Nahida, since Nahida will hit all enemies chained by her talent, and the somewhat slow Hydro application from Hydro Traveler's elemental skill allows her to just bounce back and forth between enemies, hitting them with dewdrops. As we can see, with this unique property of being able to hit any enemy within a reasonable range, Hydro Traveler was able to spam Bountiful Cores on enemies that would otherwise require some other odd setups to achieve. Now this niche is honestly not worth the team slot, as even Dendro Traveler is likely a better option for Nilo teams, but it is a niche that only Hydro Traveler can do. Okay, so yeah, let's talk about my opinions here. It's looking like a wet sack of potatoes for Hydro Traveler at the moment. Well, I personally don't recommend building your Hydro Traveler right now because you can always build them later, because their performance in the current meta is poor to say the least. But with Hydro Traveler's introduction, we now have a second character that does a channeling style ability. Deia's Burst and Traveler's Skill function very similarly in that they are effectively multi-hit channeled abilities, and I'm hoping that in the future we might see more of a channeling abilities meta. Also, this is a Constellation 0 Hydro Traveler. Sadly, I don't think her constellations will save her, but she will do at least 18% more damage with her skill and even more damage with her burst, and have a bit of additional utility. But the reality is, right now we have no need for the weird combination of Hydro Traveler's kit. A few things in the future might provide her a massive boost though, like for example, something centered around channeled abilities, or even HP drain, since Hydro Traveler is super good at draining her own HP. With all that being said though, this is me playing Future Impact and overdosing on copium. Anyway, let me know what you think about Hydro Traveler down in the comments below, and let me know if you thought of any great uses for her besides solving Pneuma-related puzzles in Fontaine. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. This is I Went to Lose, signing out.
全力攻撃だ。
運命よ、水面に映るのです。運命よ。
前へ。はっ